Hi everyone. In this video we are going to discuss about Azure Firewall. What is Azure Firewall? Azure Firewall is managed cloud-based network security service that protects your Azure virtual network resources. Virtual network resources in the sense which is inside the VNet. So it is a fully stateful firewall. What is stateful? Stateful means like if you configure for the inbound traffic and the outbound traffic will be automatically gets routed. So in a stateless it will be like you have to create inbound and also outbound rules. So now coming back to our Azure Firewall, I just want to show you a picture representation of how it works for your better understanding. As you can see here, I have a VM inside the resource group RG1 where I have my RG1 VNet1 and the VM is associated with a subnet called subnet1 and I have a source here. Here what my firewall does is, a firewall does not allow a person from the internet to connect to my VM directly. That is my main motto. So here I have created an Azure Firewall. Azure Firewall is a feature in Azure Cloud. So to implement Azure Firewall, what I have did is like I created a resource group called RGFW, means resource group firewall, and inside that I have created one VNet, resource group firewall VNet, and make sure inside that VNet you have to create a subnet which name should be like Azure Firewall subnet. So now the traffic from outside of internet travels through a Azure Firewall, and then Azure Firewall will be redirected to the particular VM based on the rules which is specified in a Azure Firewall. So here you can also see a public IP and a private IP, and you can also see a peering. Why peering is needed? Because the Azure Firewall is inside the resource group, because the Azure Firewall is a part of resource group firewall VNet. That means it's a VNet. The Azure Firewall is associated with a VNet. So again the VM is in a RG1 VNet1. To get the two VMs communicated, we need a VNet peering. So we have to create a VNet peering here. So what is this public IP? Coming here, public IP. Public IP helps to communicate with the outside network, where here when we try to connect with the public IP will have a table of private IPs to the port which it is getting connected. You'll see this in the implementation and you'll get to know it clear when we go for our lab. So now let's go to our lab. So here in our lab, as you already saw in the diagram, here I have created two resource group. One is RG1 and one is resource group firewall. In RG1 I have a VNet created, and inside that again a subnet, and inside the subnet I have created one virtual machine. As you can see, the virtual machine here is associated with a subnet 1. After that I have a resource group RGFW which is created for Azure Firewall. I have created a VNet and a Azure Firewall subnet. As I told you, the name of this subnet should be Azure Firewall subnet. So I have deployed these VMs. Now go and check whether it is got deployed. As you can see, RG1 and RGFW is created, and a virtual machine and a subnet 1 is also created. Also virtual networks. Now the next thing is we need to do peering between these two virtual networks. Let's go to VNet1, go to peerings, go on add. We have already done VNet peering in our previous videos, so you can go back and check that video. You'll be having a I button on the top of this video. So here I'm already on RG1 VNet1, so I'm selecting RG Firewall VNet in order to get the communication established. So just click on add. As you can see here, peering is created. Now the next thing we need to do is creating a Azure Firewall. Now go to home. You can type firewall here, or else I have it on my dashboard, so I'm just clicking on firewall here. Click on add. So here my subscription is free trial and the resource group is RG Firewall, which I have been created for this firewall. Name I'm giving it as RG Firewall _ Azure. Reason is East US, and virtual network I'm using use existing one. So this virtual network is RG Firewall VNet, and if you can see here, it is asking for a public IP address. So I'm just clicking on add new here. Here I'm giving AZFW public IP, PIP. So just click on OK. Azure will take one public IP from the Azure IP pool. Click on review and create. So this will take little time to get create. As you can see, deployment is complete here. Now we'll go and see our public IP. What public IP is assigned to us and what are the options in this Azure Firewall. Click on this Azure Firewall. If you come below, you'll be having a public IP configuration. I'm opening it in a new tab. Now remember, this is your public IP which is assigned. Now let's go to rules. Inside the firewall, you have three rules. One is Nat Rule Collection, Network Rule Collection, and Application Rule Collection. Let's go and see what is Nat Rule Collection. Click on Add Nat Rule Collection. Here I'm just giving a name. So here I'm giving it as Nat. Priority I'm giving it as 100. So rule name is Internet to VM1. Protocol I'm selecting TCP protocol, and source IP address. Source is from Internet. So I'm giving star, so I can connect it from anywhere. So coming to destination IP address. So destination IP address is a public IP because you from the internet accessing doesn't know the private IP address. So you need to give your destination IP address to be a public IP. So go to your public IP, copy your public IP here, come back, give your public IP destination address, paste it. So destination port I'm giving it as 5000, and translated address I have to give my virtual machine IP address because this public IP will be translated to this private IP and connected to VPN using port 22. So destination port we are trying for 5000 and it's also get translated to port 22. So now add this rule. So here is the rule. Nat rule 1 is created. Now let's go and log into the VM using this public IP address. So our public IP address is this. I'm copying this. Go to putty SSH to public IP. So I'm VM user I'm giving my public IP and port, as you see I have given 5000 there, that need to be translated to 22, and this IP should be translated when connected through a 5000 port to a private IP of the VM for port 22. So let's click on open, give my password. See, it's connected. See here, if you check for the host name, it is RG1 VM1. So this is how the Nat rule works. Now coming to our next rule, Network Rule Collection. Network Rule Collection. So if you want to add a rules through an IP based on IPs, then you have to go to the Network Rule Collection. So here, while creating the rules, you have to give your IP addresses here, like source and destination IP addresses, which you want to allow or deny. If you want to deny, select the deny, or allow, you need to allow. Do your trial and error methods on this. And next is like application rule collection. So application rule collection. So in application rule collection also you can create a rule which allows the application way, like in the sense like you want to allow complete Google be accessed from your VMs or from your source to destination, like make it as your VM as a source and outside to the network destination. So in that case you can give your rule here like google.com. It will allow all the google.com, because google.com has many IPs. You can't give every IP in a network rules. So you can go to the application rule collection and just give a google.com. Similarly, you can also have an amazon.com. Before closing, I have to tell you one thing, like see, you have created a network rule collection denying Google IPs, and in application rule collection you have created one more rule allowing all google.com QDNs. So in that case your network rule collection will be implemented first and it will get denied. Make sure your network rule collection doesn't override your application rule collection rule, because network rule collection will be given the first preference. This is today's video. Hope you all like this video. Please like and share. Subscribe for more videos. Thank you.